As a teenager, I would often argue with my parents, and my dad would eventually become frustrated and exclaim, "This isn't a debate! You will do it because I said so." As a teenager, that was not an answer likely to ensure I would comply. Instead, I decided to learn what debate was, and so I joined a debate team. Needless to say, the phrase, "this isn't a debate," became heard more and more frequently in my childhood home. Now, when someone hears that I coach and teach debate, they typically say, "Oh, I'm never getting into an argument with you," or even worse, they'll immediately challenge me to argue with them over their favorite controversies of choice. In today's lesson, we'll explore the question, what is debate, and what are the benefits of learning to debate? We're clearly a very argumentative group of folks in today's society, whether it be fighting with each other on Facebook or in the comments section of YouTube or Reddit. Everybody seems to have an opinion and want to express it forcefully. As the greatest basketball player of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, said recently in a LinkedIn article, "I don't care for debates, whether on YouTube or presidential. They are designed purely for entertainment value and to get more subscribers who already agree with them, not to clarify complex issues. Someone mentions a fact or a statistic, but there's no time to look it up to see if it's a legit study or fact. So the process has the veneer of reason when it's mostly emotion." Unfortunately, the definition of what we understand debate to be has become more and more unclear. So today we'll cover three major introductory topics. First, I'll provide you with some clear guidelines for what we mean when we discuss debate in this video series. Secondly, I will explain the basic parameters of competitive academic debating. And finally, we'll briefly go over some of the value and benefits of learning to debate. So let's begin with the first topic of what is debate? Perhaps it's best to start with what debate is not. Debate is not me having a disagreement with my wife. Debate is not arguing with my parents whether or not I should have to clean my room or do my chores. Now, I might choose to use some of the skills I've learned to debate in some of those situations, but when we talk about debate, it implies something much more formal, even more formal than what most people think of when they think of, say, presidential debates. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen a presidential debate or seen clips from the presidential debates, and while that may be the closest thing to a debate your average citizen ever sees, it's not really reflective of the debating that you would see in competitive academic debating. Really, what you're seeing in a presidential debate is a highly staged performance, where the contestants are trying to convince you to vote for them. They're not necessarily trying to convince you that their ideas are better, or really persuade you about any idea at all. It really is what I would call an image play. They're selling you an image of themselves in a highly scripted and controlled environment. Prior to the debate, teams of consultants negotiate every detail of the debate, down to how high of a box the shorter candidate gets to stand on, the temperature setting in the studio, or even how much makeup the candidates get to wear. The most well-studied example of this premise is the first ever televised presidential debate in 1960 between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. In the weeks leading up to the debate, Nixon suffered both an injury which became infected and he was battling with the flu. He showed up to the debate 20 pounds overweight, physically exhausted, pale, and battling a fever. He hadn't shaved that day, so his campaign hastily put some makeup on him to cover up his stubble. Kennedy, on the other hand, showed up in excellent physical shape. He had a glowing, warm tan from weeks on the campaign trail, giving speeches out in public. And while Nixon came directly from campaign events, Kennedy had been resting in a hotel room in the days leading up to the event. Under the heat of the studio lights, Nixon began to sweat, and his hastily applied makeup made the beads of sweat running down his face easily noticeable to the cameras. Some political observers commented at the time that Nixon literally looked like a talking corpse on camera. What's interesting is the people who only listened to the debate via radio thought it was clear that Nixon had won, or at a minimum, he tied the debate. Remember, this is the first televised presidential debate. At this time in history, the country was used to hearing the president address them via radio. So, on the other hand, those who were watching the debate on television thought it was quite obvious that John F. Kennedy had won. It's important to note that these interpretations were not determined by party line like they tend to be in today's presidential debates. The observations of who won or who lost were more clearly split among the medium that people viewed the debate, as opposed to whether they identified as a Republican or a Democrat. Many pundits at the time considered that particular debate to be pivotal in determining who won that election. So what explains the diametrically opposed view on the debates? Unlike today's presidential reaction polls, which are predictably split along party lines, these results were split based upon the medium which the viewer or listener received the debate. Scholars of presidential rhetoric explain that those who were listening to the debate were more focused on the ideas themselves, the arguments. There wasn't a person to watch, so all they could do was hear the arguments. On the other hand, those who watched the debate were more focused on the person, and they were more excited by the prospect of a strong and healthy John F. Kennedy leading them through the Cold War. I bring this up today not to argue who should have won the presidential debate or who should have become president in 1960, but instead to emphasize the importance of the role of ideas and formal and logical arguments in academic debating. In academic debating, we learn to separate a person's ideas about an argument from the person themselves.
Debaters debate about ideas. Another way I like to explain academic debate is that it is a dialectical mode of thinking about society's most difficult problems. What does dialectical mode of thinking mean? From the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, dialectics is a term used to describe a method of philosophical argument that involves some sort of contradictory process between opposing sides. The Greek philosopher, Plato, presented his philosophical arguments as back and forth dialogues or debates. Let's expand upon this understanding to compare academic debate to an even more specific philosophic method known as Hegelian dialectics. Dictionary.com defines Hegelian dialectics as an interpretive method, originally used to relate specific entities or events to the absolute idea in which some ascertainable proposition, a thesis, is necessarily opposed by an equally assertable and apparently contradictory proposition, the antithesis. The mutual contradiction being reconciled on a higher level of truth by a third proposition, synthesis. In a debate round, we have a starting point which we call our resolution. The resolution creates a division of ground upon which the debate can occur. Contestants are split into two discernible roles or sides. The grounds of discussion, the resolution, becomes the disputed subject of the debate. One side offers a defense of the resolution, the thesis. The other side attacks the resolution, the antithesis. The debate is won by the side that is able to successfully identify the synthesis point of those two opposing sides. The goal in the debate round is to convince a third party, the judge, that the way you've described, planned, and defended your arguments are superior to attempts by the other side. The most important takeaway here is that debates, when they are properly executed, are contests of ideas. Never should they be an attack upon the person on the other side.
So let's move to the second main area we wanted to talk about today, the basic parameters of academic tournament debating. We've established that debates are contests of ideas, so what is a debate tournament?
Debate is a formal competition, an event with clear norms, roles, and responsibilities. All debate competitions will start with what we refer to as a resolution. When we pick a resolution, we want it to be controversial. But, we also want to make sure that it splits the parties into two equal and opposing sides. Meaning, the pro side defends the resolution, and the con side attacks the resolution. Essential to this process of dividing ground is the assumption that both sides should have equal access to high-quality arguments. If it's something that everybody already agrees on, well, then the winner of the debate is the person who got to pick the side that everybody already agreed with. On the other hand, we also want to avoid topics that are so highly controversial or so highly emotional they tend to make it very difficult to have fair competition. The point of a debate is a competition of ideas, and if it's such a controversial topic that people aren't able to separate their ideas from their personal beliefs, then it might not be appropriate for debate. Consistent with the premise of setting aside personal bias in most formats of debate, debaters will be forced to defend both sides of the resolution during the course of the competition. As you proceed through the debate tournament, in some rounds you will be on the affirmative side and in some rounds, you'll be on the negative side. As debate coaches, we think that switched sides debating is an extremely valuable pedagogical process. Most significantly, it reinforces the distinction between debating about ideas versus arguing with people. Another important feature of debate tournaments is the third party in the room, the judge. The role of the judge in a debate round is to be the neutral third party who decides who won the debate. A fundamental expectation when the judge walks into the room is they set aside their personal beliefs and biases. They must answer two simple questions: who made better logical arguments in defense of their ideas? Who did the better job of defending the resolution or attacking the resolution? Your core goal as a debater at a debate tournament is to convince that hopefully neutral third party that your ideas are better than the other side's.
So, what does a debate tournament look like? The answer to this question will vary depending on your region, your league, and the type of format you've chosen, but there are some basic elements of all debate tournaments. Most tournaments are broken down into two main parts. What we call preliminary rounds, and what may be called elimination rounds, or what some people like to call out rounds. Essentially, you have a series of scheduled debates against other competitors in the field who are not from your school, and at the end of the preliminary rounds, the debaters or teams will be ranked by the tournament tabulation staff according to their wins, losses, something we call speaker points, and a variety of other metrics in a sequential order based on how well they performed in those preliminary rounds. This seeding order will be used to create a single elimination tournament bracket. This is why we call the next segment of the tournament an elimination round or out round, because if you lose, you are eliminated from the tournament. You're out of the tournament. The tournament continues until there is one debater or team that has declared the champion. Now let's talk about the different formats of debate. There's a wide variety of different debate formats available, and different schools may offer only one or a variety of combination of formats. Today, I'm going to explain the four most common formats in the United States competitive academic debating community for high schools. Let's begin by discussing policy debate. In some regions of the country, this format may also be known as cross-examination, cross-ex, or CX debate. And these titles speak to two of the most important features of the format. First, the resolution compels the affirmative team to defend some type of governmental policy change. Usually, the affirmative debaters will advocate the United States federal government to pass some new law or policy. Policy debate was also the first debate format to introduce a special period during the debate where opponents are allowed to directly interrogate their opponents in order to expose the flaws in their argumentative logic. Much like in a courtroom trial where attorneys are allowed to cross-examine the witnesses of opposing counsel. Many other formats have borrowed this convention, but cross-ex debate was the originator of this interrogatory period, thus the name cross-ex debate. Policy debate is a 2-on-2 format with a year-long resolution, meaning that if you are a policy debater, you will attend tournaments with a partner with whom you will take turns giving speeches intended to defend your side of the resolution. Since the topic is debated for an entire school year, this format of debate can become very focused on extensive use of evidence and research, and the arguments can be highly technical and specialized. In the most advanced and competitive circuits for this event, judging is expected to be performed by experts in policy debate, former debaters, coaches, etc., etc. Meaning judges should have an extensive experience either as a debater or coach, hopefully both. The next format of debate we'll discuss today is parliamentary debate. Parliamentary debate is perhaps the oldest and most popular and well-known format of debate in the Western world, and perhaps even the entire world. at this point. There's a number of different distinct formats under the larger banner of parliamentary debate, but for today we're just going to use some broad strokes to describe the core features of parliamentary debate. The essential element that distinguishes a parliamentary debate from all the other formats we will discuss today is that a parliamentary debate, the topic changes from round to round. When you show up at the tournament, you are not certain what topics you will be debating. To be perfectly clear, one won't then necessarily be asked to debate both sides of a topic in this format, but within each tournament, you'll have to debate any number of potential topics. So you must be prepared for any eventuality, any topic, and any side of said topic. Therefore, parliamentary debate still accomplishes our stated goal of switched side debating, which requires setting aside personal beliefs and ideology in favor of exploring ideas and arguments. It just gets at it in a slightly different way. Parliamentary debating is much more focused on audience engagement and upon persuasion, and is much less focused upon technical details, detailed research, and extensive use of outside evidence to support your arguments. The goal here is a debate format much more focused upon what you would traditionally think of when you conceptualized a formal debate. Well-dressed person sitting at the front of the room behind a podium, speaking eloquently and engaging directly with their audience. Next, let's turn to Lincoln-Douglas debate, or sometimes called LD, named in honor of the famous pre-American Civil War public debates between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. Lincoln-Douglas debate emerged as a new format in the early 1980s, and it was designed by a group of debate coaches who had become concerned by the increasing rates of speed at which arguments were delivered in policy debates and the highly technical nature and technical demands on judging in policy debates. The Lincoln-Douglas resolution, as it was initially designed, was intended to focus the debate round upon questions of value. In principle, a debate over philosophy as opposed to a question of policy. While the policy debate resolution prompts the affirmative team to speculate what policy change a specific governmental entity might consider passing, Lincoln-Douglas resolutions are traditionally designed to inspire the affirmative debater to speculate how individuals and societies more generally ought make determinations between right and wrong. In order to support the goal of slowing down the debate and focusing the debaters upon more abstract and less technical details, the resolution therefore changes every 2 months in a Lincoln-Douglas debate. There are a couple other important structural concerns here. While policy, parliamentary, and public forum debates are all team-based events, Lincoln-Douglas is a solo, a one-on-one debate. Over time, LD debate has evolved substantially from its original design and intent. In some areas of the country, Lincoln-Douglas looks much more like a policy debate in terms of technical detail, rates of delivery, and affirmative advocacy for policy change. In some areas, LD debate is taught and practiced much like it was in the 80s and 90s, with audience-friendly rates of delivery and arguments focused upon personal and societal values. There exists a substantial variety of approaches to LD debate within the community of active coaches and debaters. In fact, there is a very vibrant debate occurring within the rounds themselves as to which is the most appropriate style to promote personal education and competitive equity within the format that we call Lincoln-Douglas debates. The last format we'll discuss today is public forum debate. PF debate is the newest format of debate, and without a doubt the fastest growing format. It was created approximately 20 years ago with substantial support from billionaire broadcaster Ted Turner, and loosely modeled on the popular news and controversy show from his network at the time called Crossfire. The intention in creating public forum was much like the intention in creating Lincoln-Douglas debate. There was a desire amongst coaches and sponsors of the activity to have a format that wasn't focused upon technical and expert judging, and that didn't trend towards faster talking and technical jargon about the game of debate itself. The name public forum speaks to the idea of a public forum, a debate that an average, educated, and informed public citizen could understand and determine who won. To support this goal, the topic of public forum debate changes every month. Rounds and speeches are quite short, and the ability to introduce extremely complex debate concepts, technical policy minutia, and reams of supporting evidence are substantially constrained by the formal structures of the event. While a policy debate can last anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours, the average public forum debate lasts less than an hour, typically right around 45 to 50 minutes. The resolutions are typically designed to split the difference, so to speak, between the policy wonkery of CX debate and the abstract value considerations of LD. Much like parliamentary debate, PF debaters are encouraged to focus on traditional notions of rhetorical persuasion and audience engagement, but they're conversely allowed to introduce and discuss outside evidence in support of their arguments. So now that I've outlined a formal definition of debating and explained what debate tournaments and their various distinct formats might look like, I'd like to briefly turn to discussing why everybody should learn to debate. What are the valuable and quantifiable benefits of investing your time into becoming a debater? To begin with, I admit I might be a little biased here about the importance of learning how to debate, but hopefully by the end of this video, I will support my argument with sufficient evidence to convince you that learning to debate is worth all the time and effort you will be asked to contribute. I've devoted the majority of my adult life to teaching people how to debate. I have coached national champions and runners-up. I have qualified nearly 100 debaters for various national championship tournaments in both high school and college. I've also been the proud coach of debaters who never had a winning record at a local tournament until their senior year. I am immensely proud of my students for achieving both types of accomplishments. Whether they win round after round or persevere through the endless challenges until finally achieving a seemingly relatively modest yet hugely significant level of success in the end. Both types of students are champions in my book. If you're like me, you joined the debate team to deal with a speech impediment and a fear of speaking in front of others. Some of you are taking debate because your parents forced you to do it. Some of you are probably just trolls who simply love to argue and be contrary. Whatever brought you to this class or this series of videos, continuing down this path can be the most important choice you make to support your continued personal, academic, and professional success down the road. Let's begin with the academic benefits of learning to debate. There exists a robust and extensive amount of academic studies supporting all of these things I'm going to say vis-a-vis the academic benefits of debate. This video is not a debate, so I don't plan to introduce the evidence here explicitly, but I can post the studies below and give you access to them in case you want to read and confirm for yourself. Spending time in competitive debating will improve your study skills. Specifically, participating in competitive academic debate has created marked improvement in debaters' reading comprehension skills, their listening skills, and their research skills. Competitive academic debaters are able to engage with and debate controversial and complex topics at a specificity and depth you won't encounter in the typical middle school or high school curriculum. And if you are looking for an extracurricular activity to help make sure you are prepared going into college, I think debate is one of the best options for you. Let's talk about the second major benefit of participating in competitive speech and debate. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed debate tremendously as a high school student. It's where I found my people, so to speak. It's where I gained my self-confidence. Believe it or not, I had a really bad stutter when I was in elementary and middle school, and I was terrified of speaking in public. Not just a little scared, more like run out of the room and hide fear of speaking in public. Additionally, most of my lifelong friends, for instance, the non-family members who gave toasts on my wedding day, are people I met through debate. Finally, let's talk about the last major benefit of competitive academic debating: the lifelong professional benefits of becoming a debater. Some of the most important professional skills you will ever need will be developed in a competitive debate environment. There are numerous stories published every year by business journals and magazines identifying what employers say are the most important soft skills that they are looking for in new employees. More often than not, These skills are communication skills, both interpersonal communication and public speaking, writing skills, ability to work with a team work in a team-based environment, and employers are looking for people who are experienced in project-based learning. All of these skills are essential components of a competitive debate team. I think the communication skills aspect is obvious. You'll be required to speak in public in front of people. And if your goal is to win debate rounds and win trophies, you will get better at speaking in public. If you're on a team, you're going to get better at interpersonal communication, at working through difficulties with teammates, partners, and coaches. You will learn the value of teamwork and personal sacrifice for the good of the team. Of all the championship caliber debaters I've coached in my career, not a single one of them got there alone. Their success happened because they benefited from the work of the team as a cohesive unit, all pulling towards a common goal.